It's delicious.
The reward is growing for information to help solve a string of murders in Florida. 4 people have been killed in Tampa's Seminole Heights neighborhood over the last month. The latest victim, 60-year-old Robert Felton, was fatally shot last week while crossing the street to a church where he volunteered feeding the homeless. The community holding a food drive in his honor. Neighbors are understandably on edge as investigators search for a possible serial killer.
Most of us live in the smack dab in the middle of all of the murders. So, I mean, it's possible he might be one of our neighbors. He probably walks down the street multiple times a day. I'm sure some of us have seen him before. Just trying to think about that part of it and just try to remember that, you know, TPD's doing what they can and we got to do what we can as a neighborhood and as citizens of Tampa and you know, just keep doing what we're doing. Keep living our lives.
Brian Yennis joins me on set with more. It seems it doesn't seem like we need to call him a potential serial killer or call this person a possible serial killer.
Right.
It seems like he is a serial killer.
Right. They believe these 4 unsolved murders. They have 1 suspect. 24 detectives are on this case. More than 2,300 tips since that first murder took place on October 9th. And yet the best lead they have is surveillance video. This new surveillance video was taken Tuesday, minutes before 60-year-old Ronald Felton was gunned down from behind. Investigators hope someone can identify the suspect's walk or mannerisms. The video is significant because it shows the same person who was caught on this surveillance video on October 9th, the night of the first murder. Initially, police weren't sure if this person was a suspect. They called him a person of interest. Well, now the same individual has been spotted at 2 of the 4 murders. He's now a suspect. Police continue to patrol, interview neighbors because they believe the suspect lives in the same neighborhood he's killed his victims in, Seminole Heights in Tampa. Now, all 4 victims appear to be random. 60-year-old Felton was a church and food bank volunteer. His sister says she warned him about traveling in Seminole Heights given the murders.
All he was doing was helping the homeless. He wasn't hurting nobody. He wasn't doing anything to nobody.
What's your first name?
And they took his life, you know, and his life, to me, to everybody else might not mean nothing, but to me, that's my blood.
Incredibly difficult to watch that. $100,000 reward now being offered.
That's just chilling that she warned him and then he wound up dead.
Yeah.
And Brian, the Tampa mayor spoke today?
Mayor Bob Buckhorn is reassuring residents, given the fact that, look, we talked about this, Rick, this neighborhood is under increased security and patrols, and yet a 4th murder under their watch. This is what the mayor said today.
We're standing in solidarity with them, and I want them to know that we're not going anywhere. I mean, we're in this foxhole till we catch this guy. We're not quitting. We're not letting up. We're going to put the pressure on. We're going to squeeze everywhere we have to squeeze, and sooner or later, this person's going to make a mistake, and we're going to be there to catch him.
3 of the 4 murders took place within a half mile of one another, and at night, the victims don't appear to have any connection to one another, varying in age from 20 to 60. Again, we'll see what happens, but more patrols given, and no doubt, and they just want anybody to call if they recognize that guy in the video.
If they think he lives in that neighborhood.
Right.
And there are people there living in fear who might know who this guy is, you would think that somebody's going to come forward at some point, hopefully soon.
Right. And hopefully the increased reward will help them get there.
Yeah, $100,000. Brian, thanks very much.
Wow, that is the shot of the day, shot of the morning.
Beautiful.
Chevy celebrating 100 years of trucks, and on the plaza, we've got some beauties.
They sold their first truck in January of 1918, so they're about to celebrate their centennial. That's a 1967 classic Chevy, the C10.
Wow, we also have a
Restored
2018 Silverado out there. I've got sort of the cousin, I guess, which is the GMC. And I love that GMC truck. And Chevy and GMC doing great work. And I think Buy American. What the heck?
It's true. We do a segment about Chevrolet, and Ed brings up GMC.
Well, no, they're the same.
Are they?
Yeah, they're all under General Motors.
Let's go shopping.
TVs are definitely probably the most popular item to buy on Black Friday. Here with the hottest TV deals that you should know before you leave your house is Consumer Reports electronics expert Jim Wilcox. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. A lot of people are waking up early on Friday. They're ready to buy and save some money. What do we need to know when we're buying TVs?
Well, you know, TVs are great. So there's a couple of different kinds of deals. So you see these really low prices on brands you probably haven't heard of. So those are the doorbuster specials. A lot of times they're designed to get you into the store, and then hopefully you'll buy some more profitable goods. But, you know, with TVs, this is one of the lowest times of, you know, prices are lowest of the year, so people want to buy them.
Well, let's talk about, actually, you brought two televisions. This is the more expensive. It's the LG. Why do you like this?
So this is one of the best TVs you can buy this year. This is an OLED TV. OLEDs have dominated our ratings for the last couple of years. When we bought this TV in April, I think it was $3,000.
Yep.
The price right now is $1,500. So you're going to walk away with one of the best TVs you can buy. It's the LG BA7. It's a 55-inch TV, 4K.
Okay. Meanwhile, right over there, you've got a TV that if you go to Kohl's, this is a really good price.
So this we're seeing about $500. This is a Samsung. Now, one of the things that happens this time of year is they're a derivative and seasonal models. These are TVs that you haven't seen before, but they come out around this time of year. They're very similar to models that we've seen during the year. This is the 6290. It gives you very good picture quality, some excellent HD. It's a 4K set and it's a smart TV as well. $500 at Kohl's and a bunch of other retailers now.
That's fantastic.
Are there some things we should look out for? Well, wow, cut in half. I'm going to jump on this. 2/3 off. I should get this. Are there traps?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, those really low prices on TVs are designed to try to get you into the store or to get you online in the hopes that you'll buy other more profitable goods. The other thing, too, is that a lot of the brands we have never tested, so you might hear about some brands that you've never seen before. It could be a Polaroid, an Element, and these are TVs that may not perform as well as some of these other sets.
Well, and Jim, nowadays you don't have to wait in line. You can go online, right? Do you get the same deal if you wait in line or go online?
Yeah, so more and more stores are now matching their online prices in stores. You may have heard a week ago Walmart said they were actually going to do better prices in stores to get people in the stores than online. But certainly one of the tough things is that these deals change all the time because of the internet. So you really have to pay attention to what's happening.
Do your homework.
That's one of the reasons Consumer Reports has been so popular for years, because you rate the televisions and then you can figure out whether or not it's a dog or a dandy.
Exactly.
Jim, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I learned that I like this guy, Sean Hannity, more than I like that guy, Charles Manson.
I absolutely agree. I think most of the public would agree with that.
Well, the NFL anthem protest continues with Raiders running back Marshawn Lynch sitting for our national anthem while playing down in Mexico City. But he stood for Mexico's anthem.
And he wasn't alone. 3 Miami Dolphins knelt in protest, as did a Giants player yesterday.
But instead of taking a knee, our next guest is standing tall for American heroes with a very special contest. But before we get to that, Herschel Walker, Heisman Trophy winner and NFL superstar, thanks so much for joining us. And you're going to be fighting another UFC fight.
Well, I said one more. I'll do one more fight.
All right, why not? Because you haven't done enough. But Herschel, when you heard about Marshawn taking a seat in Mexico City, what's your reaction?
I was insulted. I was insulted because I don't know whether he's taking this as a joke, which I think he is, because this is very serious. And I think, and I said earlier on, the commissioner should have took a hand of this at the very beginning. He should have said, everyone stand, and at the end of the season, we'll go to Washington and do something about it.
Yeah, of course, famously, it was about a month and a half ago that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who you used to work for when he ran that football team, he weighed in on it. He tweeted out regarding Marshawn today that next time he should be suspended.
Well, I've been saying that guy should have been suspended at the beginning because, right now, I've been working with the military for 8 years, and I don't care what people say. The national anthem is the United States of America. That's where you live. That's where we get everything that we have here in the United States.
That's just one thing you never protest.
No, I think you never protest that.
And now you're doing something great for the troops and for heroes here in this country. What are you doing?
Well, what we're trying to do is give away this wonderful truck. It was hand-painted by Tex McDermott, and we're going to give it away to active military, veterans, and first responders because they don't really get enough, I think, enough rewards. I think they've been criticized so much for all the good things that they're doing, so I wanted to give away a truck from Rocket Ridge Truckings, and they're going to give away a truck.
Wow, and it says true American hero right here. I don't know if you can make it out. So what's the criteria to nominate someone and make it eligible to win this?
Well, the criteria is if you're an active military or you're a veteran or first responder, you can go on to rocketridgegive.org. americanhero.com, and you can register your American Hero. And February 28th, register by then. There's going to be just 6 committee that we're going to go in and vote who's going to win this truck.
What constitutes a hero these days?
Well, I think what constitutes a hero, in my opinion, I've had an opportunity to go down to the military. Somebody that's going to give for someone else. I've been a Christian. I've loved the Lord Jesus all my whole life. And it's more about giving to someone else. And right now, that's what we need in this country right now. We need something that's given to someone else rather than yourself. And American Hero, for me, is a military active serviceman or a police officer.
Right.
Police officers are not getting the credit they deserve. And that's a hero to me.
Just kind of interesting to talk to you, Herschel, because we're in the middle of the NFL controversy. You also knew the president as an NFL owner, as a football owner in the USFL, and you also knew him as an apprentice. Who's the guy you know?
Well, the guy I know is a good man, and I think for him to be elected as president, I think it was wonderful. But I think the people got to give him an opportunity to be the president. One thing that we have to do is respect the White House. I don't care what you do. We were born here in the United States of America. This is the most wonderful country in the world, and if this is a wonderful country in the world, why don't we do what we're supposed to do? And that's respect the White House, because one thing great about this, we can vote him out if we don't like him in 4 more years.
Right.
But if we continue to do what we're doing, we may not get a chance to vote.
When they call the president a racist, what's your reaction?
He's not a racist. I've known, I was going to say Donald for years, but I said President Trump. I've known President Trump since '82. And, little Donald and little Ivanka was with me. I took him to maybe an amusement park, Disney World, and everything. And he's not a racist. I think that's the excuse people use. He's a good man, so I think they need to give him a chance, because he was elected as our president. He was elected as our president, whether the people want to say popular vote or not, he was our president.
What is the necklace you're wearing?
The necklace is a heart. It's really an angel. It's Michael the guardian angel, because like I said, I've been blessed. I've been blessed all my life, and that's the reason I want to give away this wonderful truck to guys that do great things for me.
So we nominate people at that site, right?
You know what I love about you and your message? You're a true hero, because so many kids look up to you as an NFL player, as a Heisman Trophy winner. You deserve that trophy. Thank you for speaking out about your faith, being thankful for this country, the red, white, and blue. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. And I say the heroes are people that go down range, that have bullets and bombs going off every night, but they get up and do one wonderful job.
Transportation has come a long way.
A little historical perspective.
Just look at this evolution.
The 49 Packard, 57 Chevy, 59 Plymouth.
No AC, no GPS.
You have to shift your own gears.
Makes you wonder, what could be next?
We have a transportation system that was designed in the 50s, built in the 60s, for a population of the 1980s.
Some of us are old enough when they put the interstate highway system through Denver.
That system, I-25, I-70, constantly backed up, a bottleneck.
This is Arrivo.
And a solution is in the works.
A high-speed, super urban network.
Arrivo is developing 21st century technology that's going to let you do more with what you have.
The transportation technology is fast. At 200 miles per hour and on its own track, you could travel the metro in no time.
So you can just use your own car, drive it right onto our fully autonomous super high-speed system, and then continue to use your own car and get to your last mile.
That's right. You can keep your car with you. Simply put it on the pod. Arrivo will take you to another city, and then you drive to your destination. Don't have a car, bikes or single passengers can also go on the pods. For the next couple years, the company will work on a test track right here in Colorado, perfect its craft, and the goal is to have the first leg up and running by 2021. Now, all of this is not to be confused with Hyperloop One, the long-distance service. Arrivo is simply local.
Arrivo's focus is on regional and super regional networks.
It could also serve these cars.
We'd be right side by side with the newer, more modern cars.
This is an opportunity for the future to keep moving forward without leaving the past behind.
Each of these cars that's sitting here was considered probably the cutting edge in its day.
And if all goes well, Arrivo will no doubt be considered cutting edge.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm the vice president of Macy's Studio, where all of the great ideas and concepts for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade come to life. We start with models and small-scale stuff in our design area, and then it goes to full-scale production in our giant studio where everything gets bigger than life. So as you're watching the parade on Thanksgiving, I know you're looking for what's the new balloon and where's my favorite and everyone that you see in the air. But a lot goes into that. behind the scenes before it ever comes to life on Thanksgiving. All of the balloons have to be scaled and they have to be measured, and the calculations have to be done so that there's enough volume of helium inside to raise it up so that it can actually be flying in the air on Thanksgiving Day for you. So, in the construction of every one of the floats that's in the parade, we always have to take consideration of how are we going to get it through the Lincoln Tunnel on the night before. Behind me, this is the top of our giant tree, which we're calling the singing tree. You might say, that doesn't look all that big. You're right, because this section has to be picked up with a crane and put on this section. And then those two sections get picked up by the crane and go on top of these three sections, so that ultimately we have a Christmas tree that is more than 3 stories tall, and will have somewhere near 100 people on it from all across the country. These Macy employees are coming together to, just like the history of the parade, celebrate the holiday with all of you. Typically, the final step is putting on the paint, the glitter, and all of the final details. That happens behind this curtain. You might look at this area and say, this is kind of small for some of those big floats. Well, that's because this is just in pieces and parts that will then get assembled in the production area. And did you know that all of the balloons in the parade, those giant helium characters, are hand painted? So once we've got all those little details finished, well, then it's got to get ready to go to parade. In order to go to parade, it's got to get a lot smaller. So the top stuff has got to be collapsed down, and the wide stuff's got to be pushed in, and finally the wings of the float have got to fold up. And here they are. The wings of the float and their mounting brackets all come together so that ultimately this float could go through a toll booth at the Lincoln Tunnel. We may have to pay extra for the access.
All right, thank you very much. Let me tell you what's going on. Are you in the market for a new set of wheels? Well, the experts at Kelley Blue Book just named their top 12 picks for the 2018 models and brought 5 of them to the plaza today, and they got the proper passes. Micah Muzio is the managing editor of video at Kelley Blue Book, and we appreciate you being here. Kind of exciting, right?
It is exciting. Every single year we put together a list of our best buys, and it's a great place for people to find the best values in America. We've got 5 really good examples right here. In fact,
all right, let's get started with the best mid-size car. Here we go.
Yeah,
This is
the Honda Accord.
You heard the name before. Well, what makes it special?
All new for 2018, and look at the sheer roominess of this interior. This is a mid-size, feels like a full-size. The fitment and the materials are fantastic, and safety is a huge story. On every single Accord, Honda Sensing comes standard, which includes lane keep assist, pre-collision braking. So if you're going to hit something and you're not paying attention, the car will slow itself down for you. That's standard across the board.
And this is the car of the year, right?
Mid-size
car.
I mean, we'll be talking about that in the next segment, I believe, but it's certainly the mid-size car, yes.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Meanwhile, I think you have to go out to Ainsley because she's got another set of wheels.
Come on over here. This is considered the best luxury car, right?
I'm running towards you, and this is the Audi A5 Sportback.
Hey.
And we love it because it is just a wide spectrum, excellent car where it's both comfortable and it's sporty. And how do you feel about the design here?
I love it. I like the heated seats, and I like the cup holders. Every woman loves those, I hear, from the research that I've read. I like it because it's compact, so I feel like I could parallel park easily.
Absolutely. So it's a proper luxury car, a lot of performance, 252 horsepower, quattro all-wheel drive. Except look behind you, it's a hatchback. So you have hatchback functionality, 21.8 cubic feet of space. So super roomy, great, comfortable car.
Are these expensive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
the Honda Accord was
about 42 grand.
That was the first car I had, the first one, Brian's car, that I bought for myself, and it was very affordable, and they last forever.
They do last forever.
All right, Micah, this is the Ford F-150. It is a best-selling truck. Ted, come on back here. I want to show folks. This thing is so good. My family has had so many F-150s in the past. Look how beautiful that is.
Beautiful
It's not like
interior.
a truck. It's like a luxury car.
Well, and let me say that it is rugged, it is extremely capable. You can tow up to 13,200 pounds, and yet very sophisticated. This is the Platinum trim with a lovely interior. But, I mean, if you want to talk about luxury, massaging seats, 360-degree camera system, very capable. And this one has, and I don't know if we have time to demonstrate it, but it has an integrated tailgate step that pops out right here, and that's blocking it. But if you've ever struggled to get into the bed of a pickup
That's
truck,
awesome.
you just walk right up.
All
So
right.
easy.
Meanwhile, this is the Ford Expedition.
This is the Ford Expedition. I'm going to run over here and point out that the Expedition, much
Wait,
like...
before we open the door,
Okay.
Ted, you got to come around here because this just impresses me out of
I
everything.
know-
Take a look right
I know
here.
where you're going with this.
And look at that. Comes down right for you, okay?
You just breeze right in, no big deal with the high heels. This is the Ford Expedition, lightweight aluminum body, excellent performance, 375 horsepower, 10-speed transmission, and it can tow over 9,000 pounds.
How much?
You're looking about 40-ish grand.
Okay.
But what I want to say is that
Okay, we got to go. Listen, we're coming back, though,
Okay.
with the Porsche. We'll be right back. Micah, tell us about the Janice Dean special.
Porsche 718 Boxster, it's in beautiful Miami blue, less than 5 seconds 0 to 60, 170 miles per hour. But our overall winner, the beautiful Honda Accord we had earlier, Janice, you look fantastic in our
Oh,
set.
please buy this for me. Stay for the after the show. We'll be talking about this beautiful car and how good I look.
On December 20th, 2014, almost 3 years ago, 2 NYPD officers were ambushed and killed in Brooklyn. Officers Rafael Ramos and Officer Weijun Liu shot at point-blank range while they were sitting in their patrol car in Brooklyn. Officer Liu, a 7-year veteran of the force, left behind his wife of only 3 months. Now, almost 3 years later, Officer Liu's widow joins us to reflect on her late husband's life and to celebrate the birth of their new child. Joining me now is Peisha Chen. She also goes by Sani. Her baby, Angelina, a little girl, and Frank Siller. He's the CEO of Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Many of you have given to this organization, and it has helped this family in a mighty way. Now, Sani, tell us what happened on that day, what that day was like, and then we'll talk about your baby.
The day was like the hardest day of my life. After I heard that he was in an accident and was in the hospital, and I just feel like end of the world. So when I arrived at the hospital, and I'm sitting there, and I you know, it was almost whatever you're gonna blowing me out memory of what happened that night. But all I remember that I feel like his spirit's calling me that he wants a baby.
His spirit was calling you. He
I
wants a
feel
baby.
like, yeah,
You
he
said you
wants-
went to sleep that night, right? And he
Right.
came to you in a dream?
He came into the gym and he handed me over a baby girl. I said, okay, I take it.
Wow. So
Yes.
what did you do with that information? You talked to his doctors and said what?
And I spoke to my friend and said, I'm going to have a baby girl. So
And you-
yeah, and after almost 2 years, and I have a baby girl now.
That's amazing. So through a medical intervention, the doctors were able to save a part of your husband, and then years later, you decided, I'm ready to have his baby.
Yes.
And your little girl was born in July.
July 25th.
It's amazing.
2017, yes.
And you named her Angelina. Why?
Yes. Because she's my angel from heaven. I think that's the gift God has given me to have, and she's going to support me of the rest of my life, and she also made my life meaningful now.
Was it the best day of your life when she was
Best day of
born?
my life, yes.
Yeah,
And-
she is absolutely beautiful. Is she sleeping through the night?
Yes, she's a great baby.
She's so cute. She's such a good baby.
Yes.
All right, so Frank, you started this organization because your brother died in 9/11, unfortunately, but you've turned, lemons into lemonade with this organization helping other families. What did you do for the Liu family?
Well, it's not what we did, it's what the community did. We rallied together and we made sure that her house and Detective Ramos's houses were paid off, their mortgages were paid off. But it goes far beyond that because she's become part of our family, the very fabric of our foundation, to show that there's hope afterwards, that something bad can happen and miracles can happen afterwards. And here you're looking at one. Here's something that she's in the hospital, told the doctor to save his sperm, has a baby how many years later? You tell me there are miracles in this world, and you're looking at one right now. And this is all about our foundation, that we try to tell people there's hope, that you can go on with your life. As bad as it is, and as sad as it is, there is hope for you out there. And Sani and Angel are certainly an example of that.
Yeah, Sandy, what's the lesson that you've learned? Because he lost his brother, and because of that terrible day for all Americans, he's turned, he started this organization, and that's blessing your life. And what a terrible day you had, but how wonderful it was to have your daughter and now have a mortgage-free home.
I've been through a tragedy, and I feel how it looks. I feel like losing someone that we loved, but I'm fortunate that I have the great support from my Back Blue family and Tunnel to Tower Foundation, and this foundation putting network people together.
Yeah.
Put us together, we can go through everything.
Do you see your husband, an angel?
Yeah, every time that I pick her up and she smiles like my husband, she looks like him. I just feel like he always with
hold
me.
her?
Yes.
Oh, I love babies. Oh my gosh, cherish every single second because they grow up so fast, don't they, Frank?
Oh yeah, just with 5 of my grandchildren the last couple of days.
I hear that's better than having babies. I can't imagine that.
It is. It's a miracle.
So cute. I think she looks like your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so beautiful. What do you want her to know about your husband, and what do you want us to know?
I want to have to know that her father was a hero, and want her to learn the value of the life and have to all respects for all the law enforcement, because her father made ultimate sacrifice.
That's beautiful. What do you want us to know about your brother, Frank?
Well, the same thing, that he was a hero. He sacrificed everything. He had 5 beautiful children himself, and he left behind some legacy. It's incredible how you can turn sadness into joy, and I think that we're looking at it right here, right today. Thank you for your Fox viewers. They help us so much on so many things that we do.
They're the best. Okay. You are precious. God has big plans for your life, little girl. You are definitely a miracle. There you go. Thank you so much.
American populism dates back to the end of the 19th century when William Jennings Bryan and others railed against the power and wealth of the upper class. But the populist wave that brought President Trump into power is a far different thing than its historical predecessor. So what does the future hold for populism in America? Joining me now, former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich. Thank you, Bob, for being with us. You've written about this,
Steve,
and it's something that you've studied closely.
By the way.
Thank you so much. Well, we love the fact that you could join us tonight, because this topic is really at the heart of what the show's all about, which is this idea of positive populism. What do you think, what would you pick out as being the most important elements of President Trump's populist agenda?
Yeah, it's Trump-style populism. It's Ronald Reagan and traditional Republican values, Republican economic positions clearly. You see that playing out with a growth-oriented tax bill now, but with a particular Trump stamp here. You know, this appeal, this unique sort of Trump populism, has really closed the deal with the working class voters. So a lot of these voters have been being picked off by Republican presidential candidates for years, beginning in the 70s, but he completed the deal. You know, he talked to the lack of growth. He talked to the misery index between the coasts and flyover America. That's why he was able to close the deal. And by the way, Steve, that's why even today, with obviously some diminution in the polls, he remains very strong with his very base group. And as long as he maintains that strength with that base group, he is going to be a very difficult customer come 3 years.
So how do you think he's doing so far in delivering the agenda he talked about?
It's interesting. With regard to policy and the progress concerning deregulation, obviously, in the stock market, and now 2/4 of 3% growth, sort of the bottom line to this populism was that, look, 1.5%, 1% growth, Obama-style growth, limited horizon growth is not going to get your 26-year-old out of the basement. I'm going to get your 26-year-old out of the basement. We're going to account for real wage growth. We're going to see real new factories built in the Rust Belt. And you know, to that extent, he's been pretty successful, as you see from the macroeconomic numbers.
And so one area I know you've focused on a lot is immigration. Let's just focus on that for a bit now. That's where he really diverged from the traditional Republican interests of big business. How do you see that going?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. They haven't been able to pass a bill yet, But he has a pretty good rhetorical point, depending on the number you read in media reports, whether it's 75%, 85%, 90%. You've seen a tremendous diminution in illegal border crossings. And to the extent that actually is a fact, he can point to it as a great success. But it's also a split with traditional republicanism. You know, Wall Street's been pretty laissez-faire concerning cheap labor. But this particular Trump group, this base group, sovereignty means something. They want the laws enforced. They want the border to mean something. So this sort of nationalistic, enforce the law, enforce the borders, we're going to return to a sense of sovereignty in this country, again, plays very well in Flyover America.
And so what more would you like to see done on that particular issue of immigration?
You just pass a bill. Yeah, again, the DACA kids and all that, you know, he's sort of, they're a negotiating ploy right now, as you know, with regard to the wall. The bottom line thing to a lot of people, he obviously places a great deal of emphasis on the wall, and a lot of his base does, but I don't. I place emphasis on enforcing the law. Illegal immigration is illegal. Let's stop it. Obviously, to the extent his rhetoric supports his case, that's been very helpful given these numbers. But I really believe that everybody deserves a comprehensive, real immigration bill. And that's it, Steve. Just pass the law, respect sovereignty, and then we can have our debate concerning legal immigration, by the way, skilled versus unskilled.
So do you think that if tougher action, I mean, there's evidence already that border crossings are down. Just, you know, a lot of people ascribe that just literally to the rhetoric as well as tougher enforcement at the border. But do you think that there needs to be action on people already here, as well as stopping the flow of immigrants coming in?
If there's a deal, obviously, you know, Ronald Reagan kind of deal obviously, with regard to immigration. And by the way, you raise a good point concerning the most recent statistics. The Border Patrol, the people who enforce the law, they know they have a president now who has their back. The last president joked about a moat, if you recall, at the border. These folks now who protect us and are supposed to enforce the law, they have a president who means what he says, who goes down there and visits and talks to them and has their back. That makes a great deal of difference when you wake up every day and you go out there to face real danger.
That's so true. Governor Ehrlich, really, really good to see you tonight. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure, Steve. Take care. Godspeed.
Thank you.
More than 30 million Army soldiers have served and sacrificed in the U.S. Army.
But can you believe the Army does not have its own museum? That is about to change.
Our own Pete Hegseth got a sneak peek. Where is this museum?
That's true. It's at Fort Belvoir in Virginia, just outside of D.C. And I got a chance to visit the site where it's being built, right there, and see some of the amazing items that will be inside. You know, to not have a national museum for the Army is shocking. There's a lot of regional museums, but not one consolidated place. They're doing it now. We got a sneak peek. Take a look.
The Ark is somewhere very safe.
You've seen it in the movies. But did you know there really is a government warehouse like this? Located at Fort Belvoir under tight security, it's filled with artifacts that tell the story of the Army's history. Dr. Jennings, how are you?
Nice to see you again.
The last time I met this guy, he was Sergeant First Class Jennings, and we served together in the Massachusetts Army National Guard.
That's right.
Dr. Patrick Jennings is a historian, the perfect person to give a sneak peek at some of the artifacts that will move to the National Museum of the U.S. Army after it's completed. All right, so this is the oldest flag that will be on display at the Army Museum, correct?
That is correct. This is the flag of the 1st Regiment of U.S. Infantry. This is a militia drum from Massachusetts. It's decorated with a symbol, Latin, dulci et decorum est pro patria mora, which means it is fitting and proper to die for one's country.
From the Revolutionary War to World War II. What do we got here?
We have probably the most significant cap in Army history, the hat of Douglas MacArthur. This is the hat that was made famous in the iconic photo of him wading ashore back in the Philippines.
Can I put it on?
Oh no, I'm afraid you can't.
I can't put it on.
Can't put it on.
I'm gonna get. How about this? I'm gonna get really close, like this, almost Douglas MacArthur. Nope. Can't touch. Can't do it. I know. Sorry. I've never seen anything like this. What is it?
This is a a homemade weapon, if you will. This was made by a German soldier in World War I, so we're coming up on 100 years of age. This is something a German would have carried with him on a trench raid.
From the weapons used by our enemies in hand-to-hand combat to the weapons used by our enemies today.
This is a Honda motorcycle. It was used by the Taliban to move IEDs from the bomb maker to the bomb planter. This is a piece of the landing gear from one of the aircraft that crashed into the World Trade Center in 9/11/2001.
This looks like what used to be an engine. Where from?
This came out of Mogadishu in Somalia. This is the engine from Super 6-1. A helicopter that was shot down from the famous Black Hawk Down incident.
One of the things the Army Museum is striving to do is tell its history through the stories of individual soldiers.
This is the Bible of Mr. Melvin Nesterby. He carried this Bible with him through the Bataan Death March, which he survived, and into a Japanese prisoner of war camp. It tells a story of a man who had the will and the faith to survive. When a visitor walks into the museum, they'll start encountering these large stainless steel pylons. We've put soldiers, individual soldiers, and a brief history about them.
Also throughout the museum, life-sized and extremely lifelike soldiers.
A lot of these cast figures are active duty soldiers or former soldiers.
Currently
in the Army.
The idea is to take the visitor to the museum and put them inside the action, inside the vehicle, inside the firefight.
Absolutely.
What better way to help put visitors on the battlefield than with battle-worn vehicles? The Army Museum is literally being built around 4 of these, already in place at the construction site. So I can't say I've ever been underneath a World War I tank.
This is the FT-17, 5 of Hearts. We actually found bullet holes, we found a bullet embedded, and we've kept that battle damage to show the visitor.
What's it been like to watch a project that's been many years in the making sort of rise from the ground?
Really an honor, a tremendous honor.
For those families and others who have contributed to our nation's service and sacrifice, this is special.
As you can see, the museum is not yet finished, but the projected opening of the museum is late 2019. They've raised a ton of private money to make it happen. They're still a bit short. To donate, visit armyhistory.org. It's going to happen either way. Some very generous individuals making sure that it happens. Very cool. It'd be a great place to bring soldiers, but then kids, teach them about the Army.
So, Pete, they would take a $20 bill, right? They would take anything,
Anything.
right?
Anything.
Okay.
Yep.
It's great that it will finally be a repository to all that cool stuff they've been
And I
collecting
didn't.
through
I
history.
wanted to put MacArthur's
You
hat
can't.
on.
No,
I just
come on.
couldn't do it. I had like 10 eyes
One
on
of
me.
you wore gel, and it would have come out.
By me getting called the N-word and other people getting called the N-word, I know personally it made me feel the more.
Marshawn Lynch of the NFL's Oakland Raiders stands for the Mexican anthem and sits down to boos for our national anthem. Great disrespect. Next time, NFL should suspend him for a remainder of season. Attendance and ratings way down. We asked you whether or not you felt like you were feeling badly about football and whether or not you would be watching it this Thanksgiving. And overwhelmingly, according to our email, a lot of you simply will not turn on the television and watch the NFL play football on Turkey Day.
That's right. Well, you had Herschel Walker, who was supporting everyone who stands up. He supports the red, white, and blue and our troops, and he says that this is a shame that these guys are kneeling or taking a knee or sitting on the bench during the national anthem. Hats off to him for saying that. It's about the sacrifices that our military men and women are making overseas. They're not home for Christmas. These are millionaires that are sitting on the sidelines and are kneeling on the sidelines. Choose a different platform. Choose a different time, not during the national.
I also have a problem with the fact that they're protesting law enforcement, who I think, for the most of the time, does a fantastic job, 99% of the time.
Welcome back to The Next Revolution. Tonight, we're taking a look at what's being done for working-class Americans. President Trump campaigned on bringing jobs back to America and boosting the middle class. So far, as we've seen, the results have been mixed. But is it the president's fault or the fault of those around him? Joining me now, author of The Working Class Republican, Ronald Reagan and the Return of Blue-Collar Conservatism, and senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, Henry Olsen. Henry, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start by asking you to define, if you will, what is a working-class Republican?
A working-class Republican is somebody who puts the dignity of the average person and the reality of their everyday life, to quote Ronald Reagan, at the center of their political philosophy. It's somebody who believes that human liberty and the free market is important, but not as important as helping average, everyday Americans have the chance to live decent and dignified lives of their own choosing. So this is a philosophy that says, let's get government out of the way when it helps the average person, but let's use government selectively but effectively to help the working person and the average person when they need a little bit of help to lead that dignified life.
So you think that Ronald Reagan was an example of that working-class republicanism, the blue-collar conservatism? I just want to, so how was he an example of that?
Well, he's put the average person at the touchstone of his philosophy from the minute he became a Republican. When he endorsed Barry Goldwater, he said that the conservative movement represented the forgotten American, which he defined as the person who goes to job, bucks for a raise, pays his mortgage, and knows there's no such thing as a free lunch. When he was president, he cut taxes and regulations, but he also put sanctions on Japanese companies and Japanese imports in order to protect American jobs. He was somebody who put the well-being of the American worker at the center of his philosophy, whether it meant less government or, in some minor cases, more government.
So that's interesting. Let's now run the clock forward and contrast that with the republicanism that came after that. Do you think that after Ronald Reagan, the GOP lost sight of some of that ethos of representing the working class?
Oh, absolutely. What you saw was cookie-cutter faux Reaganism after him. You had ideologues take his mantle and try and say that he was much more anti-government than he ever was. You saw people say that the free market was an absolute and that whether people were losing their jobs, well, that was just a case of the market working its will, and they deserved to have their standards of living cut. Ronald Reagan would never have done that. He didn't do it when he was president, he didn't do it when he was governor, and he wouldn't have done it if he were alive today. And you see that continue to be a philosophy of the establishment and the ideological Republican, and it's one of the great reasons why they didn't see Donald Trump coming when he took the mantle of the American worker as his touchstone.
So do you see the thing that a lot of people, including me here, actually describe as populism, positive populism, I like to call it? Basically, that's a sort of renewed version of that blue-collar conservatism. Is that how you see it?
Absolutely. That what Donald Trump did was take Reagan's mantle, which is that the average person deserves a dignified and decent life, and he's creating a modern solution for the problems that we've got. It involves less government, lower taxes, and less regulation, but it also involves some more government. It involves some more government in enforcing our immigration laws, in recrafting trade agreements that the average person benefits from them, just not the wealthy few. It involves taking a look and making sure that our government is supporting people in need to the degree that they deserve it. And it's something that is entirely different than the republicanism that's prevailed for the decade before he got in the race.
Henry, that is incredibly interesting. I love your take on this. I think we're going to see you on this show here with us in studio in the weeks ahead. But thank you for joining us tonight.